Hello. I just pressed the button and didn't realise it was going to start. Okay, so seem to be working out a method for doing this without the actual live streaming. That's not what I wanted to do. The way we might go forward is with the recording, certainly for the moment until we can afford a new computer. I do have a new microphone on the way, so hopefully that will improve the sound at very least. So that will hopefully be arriving next week. Yeah, I do actually have a better camera. It's right here. It doesn't use this for recording during streaming, unfortunately, because it's actually quite a good microphone. But that is got much better quality picture on it, and you can get zoom right in close to what I'm doing. Unfortunately, the feed that comes out through the HDMI includes a lot of the information around the outside edge of the screen. And when I've used it in the past with Streamlabs, not sponsored, I've cropped the image so that you just get the actual video bit rather than the info and details around the outside. Can't do that with the basic Windows camera recording effort that I'm using right now. So that'll be one of the first big improvements as soon as we can use the use Streamlabs again on the computer. So that I'm really looking forward to doing. Oh, hang on a second. Hello. There's a customer in the other half. So yeah, we'll use this as soon as we possibly can. No, he's having a drink. Clear running water. That will help a lot. I'm sitting there figuring it out and everything with the IT guys and realising that I could actually position cameras in various places around the shop, because there's a software when you stop using the camera, like by changing the scene. Getting a bit technical here, aren't I? Sorry. The software would cope or allow me to cope with like 4 or 5 cameras. I can just switch between them as need be and work out angles and things. So I could actually set this up to be pretty sweet and cover most of the shop and kind of move to different places. Like yesterday when I was working on the Kukri, I took it over there. But in order for me to have done, recordings of that, I'd have to pick everything up, like the camera and the laptop and the cables and everything, carry it all over there, film it for 10 seconds, and then bring it all back again. It wouldn't have been a suitable thing to do. So yeah, if I can set up multiple cameras, then I will. Big plans. So things will improve. Talking about trying to improve things. What do I have to do today? I have that bag I was working on last week. I still need to put a strap on it, which probably wouldn't take too long to do. But I've also got this. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to fill in this bit here. Kind of working on that. But it is a lot easier to control now. It's a lot easier to use. So I'm happy with how that's coming out. It doesn't look fantastic, but as I said, it's going to be a work in progress. A working knife. It's not something that's going to be for pretty. But I was looking at the sheath. I went and picked it up off the floor where I threw it yesterday. Looking at this, I've made some marks and done some workings out. And I thought what I would do was I could use this for a template. So it will come to some use. What I was looking at, I'll get this into here. It's a little bit harder now. I'll put that chunk of leather around the handle. In my opinion, the top of this sheath, apologies. In my opinion, the top of the sheath is too far away from the top of the knife. I don't know if I can get it to, you can just about see as I move it there. There's a fair bit of a distance. That is sitting on the welt in there. You can see as I slide it out, I can do it slowly and carefully. the knife starts to peek out as it comes up over the welt, just at that little mark that I've made there, which I think you can see in the camera well enough. Yeah. So that is, I can actually sew further than this sheath. I can sew right up to about here-ish, and the knife can still come out. Let's see if I can get that back in there like that. I can trim the top of the sheath down to match the height of the blade a bit better. That would then allow any fastening that is here to come over more and hold it tighter so it doesn't move around. It'll stop the knife from bouncing up and down inside the sheath like this as you walk or move or something. It'll actually be held. And this fastening here will actually stop it from coming out, because you won't physically be able to move. Also, when you look at it, splays out a lot here. Normally I'd say that's okay, we'll just include that. You can include that part into the sheath and create a friction hold around it, which would be okay if you were sewing all the way up. Well, you're not, because you've got to stop sewing back here somewhere. So I can't do that. I can't include it in part of the sheath. So I'm going to cut it off just there. And make it a slightly shorter sheath. Shorter sheath. You've got to have the right teeth in for that one, haven't you? I was also trying to think about how I would actually attach it to the belt. Whether I just put a loop on the back here, or actually let it hang a little bit lower down by putting some, which are sometimes called frogs, that go here and here. Still a little bit undecided about that one. The other thing that I need to figure out is where does that go? That. Whereabouts this will fit. I am very tempted to actually try and put it like that, so the sheath comes down like this. It's designed to hold that there. The next concern I would have with doing that is how to keep it in place. I can always drill a hole through this and put some shock cord in it, or just leather cord. Which can then be attached to a press stud in some way. I just don't want it to come out, if you see what I mean. Definitely got to think about that one. Because this will probably be one piece of leather that's basically folded round. So yeah, that, or it would be, as I sew in the welt, I'll have another piece of leather that this passes through. That might be the way to do it. Yeah, because actually it'll be round that way, because it's going to go mounted on the left hand side of my belt, like I said yesterday. And then if I put a hole in this, put some shock cord through it, long enough to be able to loop it over the back of this, so it'll come over like that, and there is just a piece of leather for this to pass through in a loop here. So what I'll do is I'll straighten off this part of the sheath across here between these two bits. I'll make it go straight across there. I'll have one line of stitching that goes through the welt, and I'll have one line of stitching that goes around the outside edge. And the one around the outside edge is what I'll put the loop of leather through for this. Getting a plan, also known as getting a clue. I don't know if I can describe that any better. A drawing might help, or it might not. You never know. I've also got to try and do this upside down so that you guys can see it. So let's take that out of there. That's the current shape of it. So if I go right the way across there like that, in a practically straight line, I'll have have one line stitching along here for the welt, because this will no longer be, this will just be the edge of the welt now. And then I'll have a line of stitching across here like this, into which I will pass a loop of leather, possibly quite a long one, it'll be quite large, like that, and that'll give it a really good hold. Drill a hole in here, put a loop of shock cord in that can then be stretched and over itself, over this end, and then that way it'll just stay in there like that. By the looks of things, I'm going to have to bring this down like this and possibly sew it like that. And I've just looked at the monitor there and realised that all you can see is a piece of white paper. Because the lights are too bright, all you can see is white paper. Hang on then, can you see that? No, that doesn't help at all. Be right back. Ah! Alright, does this show up any better? Yeah, that was better. Alright, so let's start again. That's the current shape, and will be the shape of the welt. Stitching along here. The actual sheath will be shaped like that. So only the welt will be this shape. You won't physically see it from here to here. All you'll see is that bit filled in across there and sewn like that. So I'll sew that at a separate point. I will then put a piece of leather in there like that when I put this piece in, when I put this stitching in, and sew it across there thus to hold that. And then the shock cord comes around there and goes around the end of itself, and it'll hold it in place there like that. So like this. That is the plan. It's a simple little addition to the sheath that will allow me to carry the knife steel, the fire steel at the same time. It doesn't unfortunately incorporate this. I was thinking about putting a strap around, you know, around the and having that on the outside in some way, or that's what I was thinking, but as I say, I have another fire steel at home that I will use that with. Might be better for instances where I can't take this with me, or I can't take the knife with me. There may be situations where I'll be told, would you mind leaving that at home? You're scaring people. That could happen. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Pen knife? Ah! So yeah, there will be a situation where that is useful. Just had this vision of scout camp. I'm also a scout leader on occasion. Turning up to scout camp. Did everyone bring the knife? Yeah! Ben! That's what I'm planning to do then. So I figured, seeing as I'm not going to keep this or use this, I'm going to chop this up and use it as a template. Because why not? It's already there. I've got everything I need. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's make sure everything's sharp before you start. And anybody out there screaming, "You're doing that wrong!" Yeah, maybe I am. I honestly wouldn't know. I've just made this up as I go along, like I do with everything. So you're welcome to your opinion if you think I'm doing this wrong. Anything that I'm doing wrong. you're more than welcome to comment on the video and tell me I'm doing it wrong, as long as you can constructively tell me how I'm supposed to do it right. And then I'll make up my own mind as to whether or not I think you're right. Now then, best way to... I should just eyeball that. No. Because I couldn't really... So that's more like... a bit more of an angle to that, like that, across there. And there go our boys in blue. Screaming up the high street. This is a small town. We actually have, for a small town, we actually have a fire station, a police station and an ambulance station that service quite a large area. But the police station is just down the high street behind me. The ambulance station and the fire station are just up off the high street over there. And quite often, whenever there's a call out, they come through the middle of the town because it's the quickest way to get to somewhere. So we're getting sirens going all day long. Right. There we go. Sorry, Sam. Sam is, I believe, the gentleman that does a lot of the leather work down at Ravenforge. Yeah, so I've maybe made that a little too short. I guess it depends on how it fits. Now it looks like, yeah, I guess without the rest of it being there, that's actually caused the knife to move in a different way and sit differently in what's left of the sheath. So when I'm pulling it out, I'm now finding that if I rotate the knife, okay, there's more room to do that now. Right, so I wonder if I would, that wouldn't be too hard to do actually. I think I've just made it so that I can sew right the way across the top. How's that sound, eh? If you watch now, that's where I put a mark to say that's where the spine of the knife starts to protrude from the sheath. But if I start to pull this out and then rotate the handle down slightly, the shape of the knife allows me to pull it all the way out. And put it back in again without it actually requiring a gap at the top, so I could actually potentially sew it all the way around. I will need that extra height on it because the spine at the highest point is millimeters away. I might need that little bit of movement. The question is, if I leave that movement in there, I'm going to have the knife able to do that in the sheath. So the other way to do it would be so as that closed up like that, and leaving the gap. Yeah, so you can see with that done up like that, that just proves my point. I can now slide that straight out. Glad I experimented with that actually. I will also, you can see I've got a gap there. I'd prefer to close that up a bit if I could. So that's also good to know. Oh, more questions, more thoughts. I can see why it was done this way a little bit better now. Yeah, because the welt on there comes up a little bit higher and it would stop the knife at that point, or just before that point, from coming out. Even so, it's still, the blade is exposed as you get to that point anyway. But by shortening it like that, and what I don't want to happen is for the knife to accidentally come out of the sheath when I bend over or move or something like that, because that would be a bad idea. If it was mounted on the belt like that, there's a lot less chance of that happening. because the sheer weight of the knife would just pull itself back in before you even get it out. And it's also where a friction hold would cause it to hold still, basically. In saying so, the ones that the ones that I saw that the Gurkhas had, I mean, yes, they mounted them that way and had them on their hip, but they didn't have the split down here. Their knives somehow operated more like that, probably for exactly the same purpose like that. It was just ever so slightly wider at the top of the. Actually, you know what? I reckon. Okay, well, this is the time to experiment with it, isn't it? Let's do this. Let's trim that bit off where I thought. You know what, it may not be the best quality leather, but it is pretty tough. I'll give it that, it's definitely tough. Let's see what happens. So I can just hold it down like that. Yeah, I think if I were to sew it along there, there's no seam allowance into that. And it is coming, the knife is coming right just there. It's touching the edge of the sheath. It's just below the edge of the sheath there. So that would be the absolute limit for the seam allowance right there, where that is. Okay, so we could work out, it's just as important to know where that needs to be. Okay then, so do I do it that way or do I add that material back in, the height of that material? Decisions. What I might do is see if I can use my wife as a sounding board again. I think she's with customers, so I'll be right back. No, press right button. Just had a thought. I haven't got in there yet. So I thought, go away there. I need your opinion on this. Can I get your thoughts on this, please? If I can. Lou's just coming through. I didn't run in there going, waving my big chopper around and scaring customers.
It's a good thing because I did actually have a customer.
I know. I knew you had a customer. I wasn't going to go in there. I was just musing to myself, can I get your opinion on this? Like, walking in the shop. Oh, customers running.
Probably not the best idea.
Yeah, they're all clearing off. Right, so what I've done is I've shortened the sheath.
Yep.
A little bit too much, but I can just extend it when I do the pattern a little bit.
Yeah.
And realise that you can actually now take the knife out if you move it correctly without it coming up above the sheath.
Okay.
So technically I could sew along the top of it.
Apart from the seam allowance.
Well, I'll put the seam allowance back in.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it does come very close to the top now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as I said, it does now come out. But it's still going to be loose there because it needs to be at least as wide as the widest part of the blade in order for it to pass through there. And this is a narrower point in the blade, so it's still going to be loose.
Yeah.
Also, if it's horizontally mounted, what's going to stop it from starting to slide out? Now, I will obviously make the welt fit that notch a bit better. But again, that means that it's got to be able to come up and over the notch.
Yes.
At the same time in the throat of that. So, which it looks like it will be able to. Yeah. Yeah, if I put the seam allowance on the top there, that'll do that.
Right.
So the questions are, I mean, should I do that or should I continue to have it open so that you can do this to tighten it up? So I take it down further across here in order to tighten that up, because then it won't be able to, the notch won't, if that has to come up like that to go over the welt, if it's going to come up a bit here, then if that could tighten there, the knife wouldn't be able to. Yeah, it would. It'd still continue out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's still continuing out.
Yeah.
If I were to go with this and even sew it right the way up across there, a horizontal mount on my belt, leaning forwards to do something, I have the potential for the knife to fall out of the sheath.
Yes.
It wouldn't be easy for it to come out the sheath, but it could. So the question is, how do I get it to stay in place? The only thing that I can think of is to extend the back part of the sheath up here and have something that goes around it like that. A piece of leather with a press stud on it. Because that is a much thinner point of the knife.
It won't fall out at that point.
And it won't be able to move at that point. And even if it does move out a little bit, if it somehow manages to expose the blade, there is going to be a piece of leather here.
Yeah.
A piece of leather here that is going to protect me from the blade. Protect my hip from the blade, won't it?
Yeah. Are you wanting the whole amount of leather, or you just want a strip of leather that's going to hold the like a strap? So a strap of leather there.
Yeah.
Holding that there.
Yes, basically.
Right,
I will cut it. I will cut it out of the leather with the shape.
Yeah.
Required to go around there. Like that. I'm going to try and keep this in view. Yeah.
That's the only way I can think of at the moment as well.
That's all I can think of.
Make it like braces on lederhosen, kind of. I didn't mean like the whole way, all the way through, like a small thin strap there.
What are you on about? No, look. This piece of leather on the back here continues up to here. It continues in its nice graceful shape up to here.
But not on the front.
Not on the front, no.
Right.
Why would it be on the front?
You needed to say that then.
No, I didn't. I thought it was quite obvious, actually. No, it just comes across here, and then it has a strap that goes around to the front to secure it. There is a piece of leather between me and the knife here, but there is nothing on the front because it comes around like that. That's what I thought I was demonstrating by doing that. You see, like that. That's what I thought I was talking about.
Okay. As you can see, although we're married, we don't always understand each other.
Hi, dear.
Hi.
We have very different ways of doing things and working things out. Sometimes it helps me to talk, although
Sometimes
not necessarily
he explains
with you.
things to me in a completely in a way that I don't understand, but it helps him work it out.
Our brains
So
just
I
don't
often
work
just
in the
stand
same
there
way.
and listen and nod.
Yeah, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. It's as simple as that. She just smiles and nods and waits for me to work it out for myself. Basically, yeah.
I'm like the equivalent of the IT tech duck, that they'll stand there and they'll sit there and explain to the duck what they've done and then work out what the problem is.
I've heard that analogy before.
Yeah, I think some It's an IT tech thing. They'll have like a little toy duck or something that they sit on the top of the monitor, and every time they have a problem with what they're doing, trying to work through it, they'll talk it through to the duck.
Okay.
And then while you're doing that, you come across, that's where I made the mistake or whatever.
It's interesting that I find that they need something to visualise for. I mean, actually physically talking to the duck sitting on top of it.
Yeah.
I never did that. I used to be an IT tech. I used just to shout and talk around you all the time.
You didn't need
just
to
speak out loud.
You just needed me in the background, in the back of your head.
No, I didn't. I there was an entire room full of people around me, and I'd just be standing there chatting like this, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong or how to get it right. I'm sure most of my co-workers thought I was nuts. They really did.
If you got the work done.
Oh, hang on. There we go. Just a shoe collection. I did my hair again last night, so I'm not so fuzzy now. Fuzzy head. Right. Well, there's the direction I'm going in, I guess.
Yeah, it seems to be. I can take this off now.
You can, yeah. Instead of looking like some sort of robber in the background there. I'm wondering, because, yeah, that deer hide isn't going to be thick enough to do the welt.
No, you'd probably need something a bit more solid for that.
We can get a nice contrasting leather.
You could.
If I put that Italian leather in there, and get the contrast between the darker and the lighter, that'll look really good. Also, where did my piece of paper go? This is what I was thinking of doing. I'll pause because you guys don't need to see this all again. She just offered to make me a cup of tea. Thank you. I'll finish my stone cold coffee first. Alright, let's get on with this then. First things first, I do actually need a welt. Don't know if any of those offcuts are big enough. Alright, so a really cool idea. Set the disembodied voice in the background. There we go. That's a piece of the Italian leather that matches this. If I do 3 layers, it just keeps covering that bit, doesn't it?
That's your last tea bag.
I should have put that on my shopping list, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
So imagine this, you've got the deer hide on the outside, then you've got a layer of that on either side, and a layer of that in the middle. You end up with 3 colours, 3 contrasting colours that go in on the welt. That's going to look cool. Provided that piece of leather is big enough, because might have to find another bit. No, that looks like it'll work. So I would like it to come up the back there a little bit. So I've just got to avoid that bit there and do that. You see it comes up the back of the spine a bit there. Do I have enough there? Because it's quite a thick knife. It's really quite thick. I wonder if I welted it all the way around. Just with this, and then put that extra thickness there on that part. Need a bigger bit of that really. might be about to totally change my mind about how I'm going to do this. And change. Hang on. No, change my mind again. I think actually that particular leather might be too thick to say that. Nah. The hell did I cut out of that? Oh, it's a leaf. I remember now. Oh, I thought I got a sheet. Oh, I've got something down there. Yeah, my concern is that putting 2 layers of that and a layer of that into the welt, as fantastic as that's going to look, it might be a bit too thick. There you go, so that's what it's going to look like. I'll put that up to the camera. It goes the wrong way, doesn't it? With the deer hide on the outside edge. That is basically the same width as the knife, so we can go with that then. I might have to cut some of that though. Right, I'll put this away. Ah, there it is. No, it's not. I was kind of hoping to make a template. A piece of, get some paper. Right. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see any of this because it's all going to be done in pencil. But hopefully I can just show you my workings out. Actually, I've got that, haven't I? These bits are starting to annoy me. They were worth it, weren't they? Doesn't matter. At this point it does not. So I needed that seam allowance on top there, didn't I? I wish I hadn't cut that bit off now. But I needed to know, didn't I? It also needs to be wider at the back there. So that's going to be inside. Crikey, how big was the welt they put on that? That's a pretty decent sized welt, isn't it? Thinking, thinking, thinking hard, too hard. Don't think so hard. This is where my impressive GCSE art skills come to the fore. Alright, so that is the outside edge of the sheath. Yep. So there'll be two pieces of this cut out of the deer hide and be sewn around the outside. So that's the template for that. Then I need a template for the welt. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is going to be this just allows the blade to sit flat to the paper. I'm just going to close the door. A stretch. So that's the outline for the welt there. So what the easiest thing to do with this welt and get all the edges nice and neat is just to cut this neatly out the middle of a piece of leather. I'll then be able to that is a fair point actually, Ben. You won't get the knife out of there. I've got to be able to lift it up and go over that, haven't I? Like that. So this welt so I've got to lift it up like that to about there-ish. Redraw this. Okay, so that's going to be. I normally do straight knives. A knife that has a straight spine and a curve for the blade. Learning so much, I'm going to think outside the box for this one. So I've got to be able to lift it up like that and over the notch, and then start to slide it out. So already the blade has started to cut into where the welt would be. You can lift up a little bit like that there. And then it's going to ride out over the top of that there. Okay, so yeah, the actual shape of the welt. Normally when I'm doing a knife sheath, I just draw around the outside of a knife and that's your welt. But this knife actually has to move and twist as it comes out of the sheath. Did you see that light bulb come on over my head earlier? Also on this one, I said I was going to come straight way across there. That is most definitely looking like a very good idea at this point because of the amount of welt I'm having to take away from here. I've also added on a lot of height there. So there may not actually be any welt at that point, I don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out and overlay it on there and see how this comes out. Straight edge. Straight edge. There we go, that'll do. Nah. So basically the outside of that piece there is the welt. Again, sorry, you can't actually see this, can you? No, I just put this way. Everything's back to front in the camera. You can see that a little bit easier, I guess. That is the void that the knife will fill. I know it's not the same shape, but as the knife is coming out, it's got to lift up to get over the notch and then follow it around. You'll see the bottom part of this blade here has got to follow over the edge of the welt like this as it comes out. So this is the void in the middle of the welt, and the leather will be around the outside of it. That's the important part to remember. So that'll be the void on the inside of the sheath, like that. When I cut out the welt, you'll see what I mean. I'm going to cut it larger than the actual sheath. I'll be doing that intentionally, because the easiest way to get all the edges to line up is to then trim it and sand it and everything on the machine. Oh, here comes the customer.
I apologise earlier on, I just couldn't make you out.
That's okay, sir. Not a problem. Bless him. You might have just caught some of what he was saying there because I was struggling to pause it. I called him earlier to come and collect a repair I'd done for him, and he just couldn't hear me on the phone. And he had to get his wife to call me back. We got there in the end, though. Yeah. I just had a sudden thought. Why don't I just open this right up? Actually cut the stitching and have a look inside. Oh, that should be a lot easier, wouldn't it? I've put a touch of glue on it. I'll turn these lights back on so I can see what I'm doing now. Oh, brilliant! There we go, it's better. The only problem with doing this is I now actually have nothing to keep the knife safe with. Got it. Oh, interesting, that bit across the top there, they've actually done as a separate piece. Which does make sense, because you can cut loads of these bits out, but you'd be wasting this bit in here. I wonder if that would look any good. If you'd notice it if I did that. Yeah, see, I've got a completely different shape to them. See how this was done. Interesting. Yeah, I'm confident that welt's going to work. Now the question is, do I have enough seam allowance there at the top, which I could safely say to a yes, because this will be glued and sewn as well. Should be enough space there, so I'll work out how that bit's going to work once I've got this bit out, because I'll need that shape and everything. do is use some of the Italian leather to make the loop like that. Get the contrast that way. I don't want it to be too tight a hold. This is going to look great. I'm really feeling quite confident about this. So across the top here, see, this is the point at which I need to decide how it's going to attach to the belt, I think. Huh? Really tempted with just putting a square section on the back of the back part of the sheath and doing it that way. I know I was thinking about doing the frogs, so that they're just like loops that come up out the top of the sheath and allow it to give it a bit of movement. Not overly taken with that idea. That bit's working, this bit looks like it's going to work. Let's start cutting out patterns. So this is how we're going to start layering it. As I said, the boys at Ravenforge did this bottom part of the welt and this top part of the welt as two separate pieces. Yeah, so you see, that's going to work. Again, you can't see what I'm doing. I do apologise. I'm trying to visualise the void inside the knife, inside the sheath, and work out if I've got enough seam allowance at the top there compared to the rest of it. And it's just kind of checking and rechecking to make sure that this knife is actually going to come out of here, or even go in it to start off with. Yeah, it looks like I've got enough of a seam allowance at the top there. To be able to get a line of stitching across the top here. Gets a bit close at one point, but there's still a good 5mm. I normally have a come in at least 3mm to do from the edge of a piece of leather to be able to do it. So I've just got to remember to be precise across the top there. Very precise. But I think it's doable. Now for the really scary bit, cutting it out. Chopping this bit to pieces, aren't I? I'm so sorry, Sam. I'm not a blacksmith. Knife is perfect. I'm a leather worker. So I've just got to. I can't help myself. Oh, I'm going to bring some leather up here. So better start putting things out of the way. I'll have a quick tidy up. I'll be right back. There we go. Let's just have a quick tidy up and got this piece of leather out. Yeah. You alright? Yeah. Just taking the top of her head off. Still having my doubts about this leather in particular for this job. I like it, I really do like it, but then you have to take into consideration the practical side of things for it. Right here is there's a good point in the hide. Right here, it's nice and thick and very tight and doesn't have very much in the way of movement in it. It's along the spine of the animal. If I'm remembering rightly, this would be the shoulders here. Just off the camera here in front of me, it's quite a bit of leather. There we go. You see various projects that I've done out of it. I've been trying to pick the good bits for customers and stuff. As I say, this bit here is good, it's solid. But I don't know, when you think of a knife sheath, when you use them in the past, they're always a solid item. There's something solid about them. They're reasonably inflexible, even when the knife has been taken out, they're reasonably inflexible. This just kind of feels like it might be a bit wishy-washy, you know, a bit too soft. Got some of this butteroo. I use this for the peaks and the hat bands in my hats when I'm making them. It's quite a bit thicker on the wall, which would mean doing a tricolour welt wouldn't be possible. I'd only be able to do one layer because this would be too thick otherwise. No, actually, what am I on about? That's the internal dimension. Ignore everything I just said there. That's complete bollocks. It's a good colour. I had some good strength and, well, it's probably not about the same as that, but it's just a bit thicker, slightly less flexible. Only slightly. This is what I've been using for the handbags as well. You see, for the gussets on the handbags that you see me sewing. Not like that. Not like that. I'm probably going to end up using this, I think. Wasn't what I was originally thinking. Mother dearest. Here she comes.
You called?
I called, yes.
Okay.
You are being filmed, by the way.
I realise.
Right.
Hi, people.
They can't see it. The camera's there.
I know. Okay, what do you want?
Right. I've been thinking all along I was going to use this for the knife sheath, but I think this is too soft. It's a very strong leather, but it's very supple.
It is, and getting the knife in and out of it would be.
Exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I suppose you could use that as the back and a soft front, but that wouldn't work.
No. Going to use it. I've got to use it on both sides if I'm going to use it.
Okay.
I'm thinking of that, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a harder leather. I'm not using that.
Because pulling and pushing the knife in.
Yeah, it's going to be horizontally mounted on my left hip.
Yeah.
So that I can draw it like that, almost like a sword, because it is practically a short sword.
Just about.
A bit, but it's, yeah, if I put it on my back, I'm probably going to take out a kidney if I get it wrong, trying to put it back.
Yeah.
And you still end up using both hands behind your back, doing it blind to try and put it away.
Yeah.
So left hip it is, mounting on the left-hand side there like that.
Mm.
That's what I'm thinking. Do you think this is a good choice?
What about that black leather?
I thought about that for about 10 seconds and then realised it's not actually technically my leather yet, it's still yours. But I also think it's quite supple as well.
Too supple?
Possibly too supple. This has got a slightly firmer handle to it. No, that's the Italian leather. That's not the black one.
Where's the black? No, where's the...
That's the same roll.
Yeah.
It's all in there. You see what I mean? It's still quite supple, isn't it?
It's not as soft as that one.
It's not as soft as the deer hide, no, but this butteroo is still, it's got a firmer handle to it, it's thicker.
Yeah.
Not as actually thicker, much in the way of thicker, it's just a firmer handle to it.
Yeah.
I'll end up using this, I think, can't I?
Think so.
Yeah.
Right. I will go back to dressing Polly because she's half naked.
She's referring to a mannequin. I have to make that very clear. Thank you. I'm just going to try and get away from the edge of it a little bit. Wouldn't really matter, but it's got a little bit of discoloration on there. Just going to do that. So I'm going to need one that way and then one that way. Am I doing that right? Yeah. I think I am. This pen doesn't want to draw on it. Ugh. One that way. This pen is not doing very well today. One this way. See, what I'm thinking here is normally, yeah, because the sheath it came with was really curvaceous and nice and stuff like that. And I'm taking out a lot of that curve. I'm flattening it out along there. The sheath doesn't look as sexy. So using the tricolour, using a triple colour Welt, that'll be the eye-catching part. I'll get a bit right. Let's put this back down here. Yeah. one of these days I might actually invest in a slightly larger head knife. I do have a head knife. This is a half head or a half round. I do have a head knife. It's not amazing quality, and to tell you the truth, it just terrifies the life out of me. This technique I'm using here, I believe, is called roll cut, because you just roll the knife into the leather in order to cut it. That's a pretty safe technique to use with thick leather. The other way to do it is just make multiple cuts. That's not so easy to do when you've got curves and things like that to do. So I just roll cut it and then come back and make good on some of the shapes. Yeah. I've got that pretty damn close, that's good. Now for the welt. Now I need 2 of this, which I doubt I'm going to get out of that one piece there. I'll definitely get one. It's like I said earlier, this is the void. So I've got to keep the bit on the outside, roughly. So what I'll do is, I'll cut the void out, then lay it on this, and then cut the outside edge to match this and sand it all down to get it nice and even. It's not going to, basically going to come to there, like that. There or thereabouts, so as long as I've left enough around the outside edge for it.
My handbag was next.
It will be after this. I'm trying to differ it a little bit, or else all I'm making is handbags for 3 weeks on the streams. like there's enough of it. Just might have to draw it on here so I can line it up properly. That stitch through there. And that stitch line's going to come across there. How's it start? It's basically got to start there, hasn't it? Recheck. Yeah. So then we're moving it up like that, and like that, and then like that. And sliding, sliding. I've got lots of room there, lots of room there. Sliding. Yep. Yippers. It's going to work. And so I'm going to sew right away. It's going to get a little bit tight there with the stitching, possibly, and there. Don't actually have to sew right the way up to the edge there. But the thing is, the blade is going to be catching this lump here a lot more than it is that bit there. That is just going to lift it up and over. It's going to be heavily glued, so it will work. So then if I do this, I should be able to see exactly. Do this. Yeah, okay, so that's helping me get that lined up. Of course, once I've got the first layer on, then I can just keep stacking them. Yes. Might as well get the glue going, hadn't I? So apart from having to realise that when you're cutting out this piece of leather, you want the void, you want the bit on the outside of the void, not the void on the inside. Hence why I was cutting into it here when I was cutting around. Because if I'd done that on the outside, I'd have ruined the, well, you've got to get your head around that way, because normally the bit in the middle is what you're keeping. It's not. The other thing you've got to get your head around when you're doing this is the outsides of this is the only part that's going to be seen. This part here is not going to be seen. Only the inside of it, the edge, is going to be seen. So it doesn't really matter what you do with this bit. You can see I've scarified the surface, I've scuffed it a bit. That just gives the glue something else to attach to. You know what? Where did that go? There it is. I got sent a free sample of this. I bought a ton of leather off of someone and they sent me a free sample of it. It's called EcoStick 1816B by Intercom. I'm not sponsored. I didn't buy this. It was a free sample. I haven't actually got around to using it. The issue you sometimes get with glue like this is it's too thick when you're doing a welt. So what will happen is, instead of getting a nice smooth edge right the way across, you actually get a layer of leather, a minute layer of glue that's visible, then your next layer of leather. Now some people say, yeah, your glue's too heavy and that's why you're not getting a nice smooth finish. You need a thin glue, something that will stick. Yeah, I'm going to try this, see if it's any better for this situation. I accepted it, and because I was running out of this, because it's water-based and is, if I was to use it with the bottles, I don't use this when I make the bottles. This is solvent-based, it's got neoprene rubber in it. It really shouldn't go anywhere near foodstuffs or anything that you're going to use for foodstuffs. Whereas this is non-toxic, water-based, and it's perfectly safe. You're going to obviously put a layer of wax over the top of it, and in saying that, I still wouldn't use this. So I use this. Let's give this a shot and see if the edge of the welt comes up any better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some on and then spread it out. You get a nice thin layer. Because this isn't a contact adhesive, I've basically got to put the welt in straight away and work quickly here. Before it starts to set, I don't get that grace period with it like I do with the solvent adhesives. It's already starting to turn a little bit tacky down that side. Put some more on there. Actually, my first proper look at how it's going to work, whether it's going to be tight or not. I'll put some weights on that whilst I'm doing the other bit. Should be a third one there. Yep. It's going to be big enough. Nope. That's a little bit frustrating. Here's one I bought earlier. Ah! Same stuff. It's a different animal. It's a different hide, but the same stuff. Right, now I've put that there, I'll probably move it. That bit's going to fit there. It doesn't actually matter which way around it goes because it's just going to stick to that. Yeah, so and there you go again. Boys and girls in blue. And so the police station's like 5 doors down the road. So I need to come up. Something like that. Just to give you an idea of what I meant by bottles, because that's the leather that I use to make the bottles from. They start off looking like that. That one's got a dent in it, I've got to re-wet that one. And when you dip them in beeswax, they come up looking like that. That is the same hide as that. And that's how much the colour changes when you dip it in wax. It's brilliant. That will be an upcoming stream at some point, as soon as I get a chance to get myself sorted with it. What I'll do is I'll make one of these, show you how it's done, and then I've got this one to dip, a slightly smaller one and an even bigger one. That's the big one. Right, back to the scheduled broadcast. just going to... I say, it does look like it's sticking quite well actually. It smells just like PVA glue. It smells just like we use at school. I'm surprised if it is, it's just been rebranded and marketed as something else. It's water based and everything, so. That's getting a bit dry there. It's a bit tacky. What have I just done, you idiot? There's supposed to be a layer of the Italian leather in the middle. What a twit. I was sitting there looking at that thinking, have I done this right or have I done this wrong? I've done it wrong, haven't I? Yeah, I did it wrong. Not only that, this would be the point at which I need to put the loop for the fire steel in as well. To fit in the bottom part. Yeah, better do that bit as well then, thinking about it. Silly idiot. Well, at least I've got that bit cut out. There's got to be some butter rough cuts in here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Butter rough cuts. Big bit that. There you go, you see. That's obviously from one of the handbags. You can see the Welt stamp on there. It's covered in silver pen. Thankfully this stuff rubs off even when it's dry. Alright, so what are we looking at here then? What kind of width do we need? Just needs to cover that bit there, doesn't it? So what actually are we looking at? If we did something that was like 60 mil, we probably got 90 mil on this and cover it a lot. We don't want it to be too tight. And where is this handle gonna? If it's like that, I don't want that handle to get in the way as you grab it, do you? So it's got to start about there-ish. It can only really come that far forwards. So now looking at a 90 mil tube would be the most I'd go to there, I think. Does that have to go around it? Not that way, it isn't. That way though, maybe. This is called a bump jig. So instead of trying to figure out if you've got it straight or not, you can just bump your ruler up against the edge there, and as long as that's square on there, against the leather, you just bump that up against there, and it works. So it can go that way around, didn't I? Have I got enough there to get it far enough below? What I might do is just trim this. If you, like me, have been shouted at most of your life to never draw a knife towards you, always work away from you, yes, there is a certain amount of sense in what people are telling you to do there, but at the same time, if you do it right, there's no reason why you can't draw a knife towards you. You just got to do it safely. And the ways that you do that is keeping your elbows in like this and not trying to draw with your whole arm. Because look what happens. The blade comes back towards you. If you keep your elbows in like this and then use your thumb, if possible, or keep the knife still and move your other hand like that across the blade, you're never going to cut yourself. You physically can't. There's nothing of you in the way. And also, if you're doing this and using your thumb, your hand's only ever going to close up on the handle. Then we're going to close up on the blade. You've also got so much more control. Last little bit I'm just going to do like this. Okay. Yeah, so I am a little bit concerned that's a lot closer than I was hoping it would be there. A lot closer than I was hoping it would be, so when I sand this, it's just going to be a very light sanding. Now, what was the whole point? Oh yeah, it was to do this, wasn't it? Why was I doing this again? Alright, before I make too much of a mess of that, let's work out the 90mm, get the right size piece that I want. I'm moving all the sharp implements out of the way. Really frustratingly, the end of my ruler is not where the measurements start and stop. So you can't just go just like that on the end. It's so frustrating. Alright, bump jig. So make sure your piece of leather's up against the edge there. That's up against there. And when you remove that, it's going to be square. And actually, technically speaking, you don't need to. I've got this all round the wrong way now. You can't cut like that. Basically, that's how it's going to go in like that. You can slide it in and out. As long as I can get that close enough into there. I'm going to skive it down. I was going to use the... Nah. Ooh, that side's going to fit quite nicely like that. Yeah, the shape of it's wrong there, like that. That works. Yeah, so just in case it wasn't making sense earlier when I said what I'll do is I'll drill a hole up here away from the end of the ferro rod. I'll put a piece of shock cord loop, a loop of shock cord on here, and then that'll stretch and come around here in a loop and go over the end of that there, and that'll hold it in place. So the first thing I've got to do is start skiving that down. take quite a lot for this. I've also just thought to myself, I'm actually getting quite a bit ahead of myself here. Before I finish gluing that part on, because that is going to be the back of it, I need to put the belt loop on. So if what you were looking for was a well executed, thought out, planned video of how to make something, with everything done in the right stages and the right steps, nah, you're on the wrong place. Got a customer.
Oh no, this is the shoe repair bit.
Oh right,
It
It's
is,
the
yeah.
wrong place.
Right,
It's all right. We get a lot of people. This right in front of me used to be the front door to the shop. I get a lot of people coming in and going, "Oh, what's happened to the wall?" This desk is now covering the access down there.
We've got melon thread, or we've got pure cotton thread. Right, no, the sole is the one that I want. Yeah. So I need black. I definitely need black.
I very much like one of those skiving machines.
In the bigger one, yeah, but that's all. Well, I would like to have a large one each size. Yeah, and then I end up putting gypsum through, but it's always jeans. Yeah. Like that in the afternoon.
I might have to go and help Mum with the till. One sec. You alright? Sometimes struggle with the till, don't you? Yeah.
I was alright actually. I could have done it.
Yeah, you were doing okay.
Do you need any more to drink or?
Well, that was my last fancy tea bag.
Oh, well you don't then. Have to go and buy some more fancy tea bags.
What's the time anyway?
Yeah, 4ish.
It's come up for 4. I wouldn't say no to another one then.
Well, I'll just put hot water on that then.
It might work.
It'll be weak.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do that or not?
Yeah, give it a shot. Thank you. I do like making a mess when I'm doing this, don't I? I'd also like to get a big cutting mat for this table. I ain't cheap either. Oh. So the way I'm going to put this together is I'm going to put that on like that, put the next welt over the top of it, and glue that down like that, and put the next welt over the top of that. So you see I've done it in such a way that it won't interfere with the inside. Probably going to move it down a little bit so it's a little bit thinner there. Oh, I put it over there, didn't I? That way, when I sew the welt, I'll be taking it in pretty close. Not too close, but close enough. And I should have enough space to be able to do a second row of stitching along here, lower down, to catch that as well. So if I do this about right, it should catch 2 layers, two lines of stitching. And what will probably make it even easier for it to catch 2 lines is if I round the corner off slightly and make it fit the Thank you, Mum.
Cup of hot water.
On an old tea bag. Like that. It seems I pulled most of the glue off of that earlier. Oh, of course. This will make it very hard to make that welt look nice, won't it? Yeah, I wonder if I just might have to make this look a little bit neater and put it on the outside. When I sew it on the outside. Because I'm not going to be able to burnish or sand or anything along these edges if that's in the way. I mean, how can I? Why does my brain never point these things out until it's too late? Well, that bit's pretty much messed up. You know, I've scarified that bit, and I could do a better job of this. I didn't think it was going to be seen. What's this bit like? Now everything's too small. Oh, come on. Oh. Aha! Well, we can make it a little bit shorter, that ain't a problem. Or would it fit that way? Ah, it fits that way. Excellent. Excellent. This is turning out to be a bit more of a mammoth project than I thought it would do. That is for sure. Right, so if I burnished up the edges, don't skive, but burnish the edges of this and stick that on the outside. I reckon it'll still look alright. Yeah. circles gone? Where did I leave my circles? I can't find my circles. I've got a set of circles that I normally do rounded corners with. I wonder where they went. I've got so much junk around here. Right, I'm gonna pause this and come back to you. That's what I was looking for. Found it. Right. Let's see if we can get this right, shall we? So basically, yeah, I just thought I'd put a little bit of a corner on it because I liked the way it looked before I got it all wrong. Realised that I got it so terribly wrong. I've done it before. More mess. Just had a thought. Right, so that is now. I'm now I'm going to sew that on as I sew it all together. So it'll be on like that on the outside as like a bolt on. Yeah. I'll sew it into that seam along the bottom there. So it'll just be more like that. It'll be a sandwich like that. It'll sandwich the actual. Like that. Doesn't need to have too tight a hold on this because I want to be able to take it in and out just like a knife. I want to be able to get to it. Right, that's fixed that issue. Now I need the next welt, which was going to be the Italian leather. Yeah, I definitely don't have anything in the offcuts that fit. So I'm going to have to cut a piece off. I better have another tidy up before I put this up here, haven't I? Right, so I'm back again. So make sure that I'm giving myself enough space to make this with. So yeah, if I do that there, just kind of do that and that, and hopefully put that in there like that. Actually, that's a fair point. I don't need to go. I just need to go there, don't I? Over there. Hey, looks like it's going to work, doesn't it? Oh, it feels criminal doing this. I'm going quite hard on this because this has been oil and wax tanned, and it really will resist the glue if I don't scrape enough of this off. Ah! Right. Right, it's quite warm actually. Oh crikey, it's 4:30. Ah, don't want to get the glue on the outside. That was real close. I nearly didn't get enough meat on it there. Right, I'm pretty certain it's still going right, but let's just see. Will that? Yep, that goes in nice and tight there. But you can see there's a little movement at the end, but it can lift up to come up over there, and it will slide out. I am sliding the edge of the knife, the back of the knife, the blade and knife along there. Just having a thought, I wonder if I could make maybe something that wedges in, and that could be the way it holds it in place. I put a wedge in there, like a safety wedge. That's a thought. I wonder if that'll work. Because what I was just about to do was glue this part on, so I'm going to trim around this now with the knife. You should start and get an idea of what the welt's going to look like now. So there's the three, well, it's going to be like 4 colours really, isn't it? Because you've got the outer sheath colour, and you've got the inner, and then the centre. Yeah. So it's going to look like this. One chunky. Yeah, well, I don't want to glue this bit on just yet. I nearly made that mistake, getting a bit ahead of myself there. I do have to put the belt loop on this. I will need to put the belt loop on this first. So there we go, that's what it's looking like. The lights probably aren't doing it very much justice at the moment. But with the, oh yeah, that slides in there quite well. And then I'll sew that on the bottom there. My hand, wrong hand, Ben. It's all back to front in the camera. That'll be on the bottom there, holding the fire steel. Even just holding it like that, you can feel that the knife is being held quite well. I had a little brainwave about the doodad in there. As you see, I didn't cut the back of this sheath to have the T-piece on here I was going to use to do that. But we could. Yeah, there could be a way of doing that. Basically just making a wedge of leather that will fit in there. Yeah. I'm looking at this, there's the space around it is so that it can move out. It's got to be able to lift up like that first before it can slide out. So if there was a wedge in there, it wouldn't be able to move. Excuse me. But that wedge would be best being made of wood. I'm liking the sound of that. I'm liking the thought of that. That's very different. That would be really unique, won't it? There's a bit of a step there on the leather. Yeah, put my hand behind it, you can see it. Work this out, Ben. There you go. So you can see the step. There's a bit of a step there. But you see, how would I then keep this piece of wood? How would I stop it from disappearing? Well, yeah, good question. So a loop around here would just get in the way when I'm trying to use it. I'm liking the thought of that though, because nobody's done that. Ooh, maybe not wood. Maybe not wood. Ooh. Hang on, I'm just going to pause. What about that? What about a slither of horn or antler? I cut a piece off of this as, don't know, again, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but you see how it's kind of porous in the middle there? There's no strength to that really, but around the outside edge is where the strong part is. This is all the where all the blood vessels would have been. But the thinner the tine, the less blood vessel there is, the more of the actual horn there is. Oh, move it the right way, Ben. And this tine is about the right length to fit all the way down there. I could cut it off across here and maybe see about cutting it along its length. I basically just need a slither of the horn material to fit in there and act as a wedge. And yeah, it's just a case of what do I then do with that bit when I'm using the knife. I don't really want to put it in a pocket or something. It's got to have its own way of being retained, hasn't it? If it's got, say, a bit of leather on the end of it, a little bit of material on the end, bit of this on the end of it that goes through, maybe punch a hole in the side of that. There isn't enough room in here to punch a hole. Now I can't go below the welt and punch a hole because then it'd be getting its own way. If I could do that, and it'd just be a short piece at a dangle. Well, I could possibly wedge it down the side in here with this. You know, if it's just wedge it in there if I'm not using this, because I only need this out like every now and then. Ooh, that's a good idea. I'm liking that more and more. Well, I'm going to have to call it there for today. You can probably, well, you won't know because this isn't live, this is recorded, but it's now about 5:15. The shop closes at 5. I'm out at Scouts tonight. We're cooking pancakes. Not that we're anywhere near Shrove Tuesday, but we kind of made a mistake with the dates. And we've got a whole load of stuff, and we might as well do it. We're calling it a practice run. Got it wrong. So I'm gonna go home, have some dinner, get some rest, think more on this idea, That's pretty. I've not seen anything like that. If I can pull this off, I've not seen anything like that at all. Yeah. So for me, I don't know if it's like this for anybody else, but for me, this is what it's often like trying to make something for the first time. I've got no idea what I'm doing. I've never made it before. How can I know what I'm doing? I'll think of it that way. So yeah, you gotta, if you've made something a couple of times, like now I've made those bags a couple of times, you get to refine your steps and work things out a bit better as you go along. But you don't if it's the first time you've made it, and you no idea. Having the sheath that it came with as a pattern has put me on quite, made me leap forwards quite a lot in how I'm doing it and what I'm doing. But it's not by no means a complete design. There's major things that I'm doing differently for the fire steel and stuff like that. So yeah, this is what makes it difficult for crafters. How do you charge for this time? You obviously do you charge for this bit? Leave your comments below. I'd like to know, because if you're charging a certain rate for an hour, that's going to make a project quite expensive. Do people pay it? Are you able to produce something at the end of it that's more worthwhile because you're like, I'll take the time over it, I'll think about it? Or do you hurry that bit? It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? What do you do? Yeah, well, I'll leave you on that thought. I'm going to go home, as I say, go to bed. No, I'm not going to bed. I'm evidently very tired and not thinking straight. Okay, before I make an even bigger issue of myself, I'm going to go. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I will try and pick this up again tomorrow. My mother does want me to make a handbag for her out of the new leathers that I showed you earlier in the week. So I'd better do something with those. Right. Take care, everyone. See you soon.